I guess if I had to describe myself, I'd say that I was a worrywart. I worried about things that I really had no control over. I worried about my job. I worried about my son growing up. When he was 16 years old, we had so many difficult problems with him that I stood in that kitchen and I just gave him to God. And it took years and more worrying, but I saw how God took care of him and brought him through. And an experience that kind of changed my life was I came home from shopping and my son worked for a tower company. He was a rigger building cellular towers, and there was a message on the answering machine that he had fallen from the tower and that he was being life-flighted to Allegheny General Hospital. They didn't know if he would live or die. And I said, God, I gave him to you, but just keep him for me until I get there. And he came through and he lived, and it just made an impact. After the incident with my son, I really didn't give a whole lot of thought to the spiritual end of things. I still continued to pray, but life just went on until that September day when I got a knock at the door and there was a pastor from a local church that invited me to a Bible study. I went to that Bible study not knowing what to expect, but there I found people that changed my life. They were so at peace, and they introduced me to Cornerstone TV and the Charles Stanley program.
Featuring the teaching ministry of Charles Stanley.
The one particular day I remember, I sat in there and I listened to his message.
If you have never trusted Jesus Christ as your Savior, you're out of God's will.
And when the prayer of salvation came, I got up and I said the prayer with him, and it was a total change in my life. And I got on the phone right away, and the only person I could think of to call was my niece, who was a very Christian person. I said, I found him, I found him. I didn't know how else to express myself. And she said, who did you find, Aunt Diane? And I said, I found Jesus. And she said, I have been praying for so long for you. But since accepting Christ and knowing that I can place all of my burdens, all of my worries on Him and let Him handle it, I guess it's that faith and that trust that has really changed my life tremendously. My husband Don and I have grown closer. We read the Bible, we go to church. That has helped. I think it helps any marriage. My relationship with my son Brian has grown so strong, and he's turned out to be a great son, and I think I owe that all to prayer and faith that it came through. And one of the main people that I've really grown closer to is my niece Julie, whom I called that day that I accepted Jesus as my Savior. Julie and I have grown closer in that I talk to her and I know that we're there for each other.
It is just so awesome because now our relationship is at such a different level, because it's just when God is involved, there's a closeness there. The ironic thing was, when I had come to know Christ 20 years ago, one of the main things that I had listened to was Charles Stanley. And the ironic thing was, that's what brought her to know the Lord. And so to have that faith that in God's timing and what He will use to bring somebody to know Christ, it's neat to see God at work.
Seal this message.
In saying that Cornerstone has changed my life, I think that we need to give them that support so that they can continue giving us the programs that change people's lives like they did mine.